Okay. Hello. How are you?
Hey Eric, I'm good. Thanks for asking. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Uh,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Sorry, this is like kind
So
of kind of like nervous, just kind of like I don't know. This is just it's
yeah,
crazy.
a
I've
lot of people
seen
feel somewhat nervous at first.
I did.
it's just weird um having seen so much and then like actually talking to you now. It's just kind of it's a weird thing.
Yeah, well, I know kind of what it would be like because I was thinking this morning how weird it would be if I could meet like Brad Owen or um this other poker blogger I liked named Rampage. Those are both poker bloggers. I thought if I saw like
Yeah.
Brad Owen in our town, I'd be like, "Oh my God, are you Brad Owen?"
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never say
It's
that anyway.
Well, he's funny, man.
Yeah, I know you really appreciate his humor.
Yeah, he's smart and fun. Anyway, not to get off task here. Um,
no, no.
so so it sounds like you been paying attention to cognitive function stuff for a while now?
Yeah, I think the first introduction was I mean, I lose track of time after like a year or two of things, but I think like 4 years ago maybe is when I first started to read about it and everything.
Cool.
Yeah.
Um, and without telling me what it is, do you have a type that you think you probably are coming into this meeting? But don't tell me what it is.
Yeah, I definitely do. And I think part of the reason for doing this is like obviously to just know and find out, but it's like I'm like dying to like, I have to like figure it out type of thing and like just like a confirmatory thing. And
Yeah.
also I think if I could say like before we start or anything, if you could, I would like it if you like, I don't want to be like slippery or like manipulative with anything if I think that I know what you're asking or something like that. Like I really want to like nail it. So if you can like try and like catch me on my bullshit or something like that and like try and like challenge it or maneuver around it or something, like I really would appreciate that
Okay.
just for my
No,
own like sake.
no problem. Um, that thing you just did is highly indicative of one specific type. But anyway, I'll get to that later. Let's start typing you. Um,
Yeah. Also, thanks for doing this like on such short note, like literally like the day after and everything. So I appreciate that.
oh, you just happened to catch me at the right moment. I'm not. I'm
Oh
not just.
wow,
I'm
that's
not. I'm not conscientious. You just happened to catch me at the right moment. There's another
honestly,
guy who paid me like February 3rd, and I emailed him like right before I emailed you.
no way. Sorry to like take up time right now, but I thought about that when you responded. I was like, because having seen your stuff and kind of knowing you, I guess through, I don't really know you, but having seen videos and stuff, I think I knew that about you. I'm like, I don't think he would typically respond this fast. So it was just interesting
The email from PayPal saying that you had got a typing session came in as I was sending the email to the other guy that I had put off dealing with for such a long time. And so I'm like, oh well, I'm gonna get this one done right now.
that's, that's so funny.
Okay, so let's start with uh some questions, and then I'm gonna ask you the questions, and then I'm gonna also at the end of that ask you what you think these questions are testing for.
Okay.
So can you when's the last time you went out of town on a vacation?
Ooh. Um,
Or it
I don't
could
know
be
what
a business trip to visit family or any reason to go out of town, really.
um, I don't know why I'm having difficulty remembering.
Okay. Can you tell me, do you do grocery shopping for yourself? Or does somebody else do grocery shopping?
Not currently, because I was when I was in college, but in Boston. But I'm at home now, thankfully, so I don't really do that. That's just for like little things here and there. Like,
Okay, so what's a place that you might go to during the day instead of like a supermarket, some other kind of store or something that you would go to?
I'll go to like GNC, I'll say as an example. I like to go to the gym, so just getting like, gym stuff sometimes.
Okay. All right. When's the last time you went to GNC?
I want to say a few days ago.
Okay. And can you tell me an example of something totally insignificant that happened while you were there that you remember? Something like the cashier dropped the pen before, and then she leaned down to pick it up before she handed it to you to sign the paper. Something very insignificant like that you remember from the visit to that store.
Something insignificant. I guess one thing is the guy I always see there. I don't know if this would be insignificant, but he's always like, I see him all the time. And when you pay for something at the register, you just like, you either swipe or tap your card or whatever. But I always remember him. He's always like kind of in a rush or like hasty with it, and is like very like insistent on it, like, okay, just tap, you could tap now type thing. And that's like, it's okay, like I've done this a million times, like I don't know why the urgency. I don't know if that counts, but that's just something that I always.
Okay, so you told me about something that he always does. Did he do it last time you went there?
The last time I went there, yeah.
Okay. So what do you think those questions were checking you for?
I think, are you testing for like SI being somewhere like?
Yeah, right.
Something.
Those are SI questions designed to tell me whether you're SI front stack or NI front stack. Nothing definitive yet, but is clear indications one direction and not the other. So, what's your relationship with getting sick? Like, are you somebody who says, I can feel it, I'm coming down with something tomorrow, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna be sick? Or are you somebody who's like, oh, I guess I'm sick, and after you're like super sick already? Or something in between? That's the spectrum I want you to comment upon.
I feel like if I do know, it would, thankfully I don't really get sick too often, but I think if for when I did, I would probably, speaking on the spectrum, I would probably know like very like not super early, but maybe like right before, like a day or two prior, maybe, but I'm not like, yeah, or when it just like hits me, like when I wake up in the morning.
Okay.
That's a good answer.
What's your relationship with sleep like? Do you sleep a regular time every day? Do you mix it up, or do you have easy time sleeping? Is it hard for you to sleep?
Yeah, so actually I wanted to say this too when we first got on the call. I didn't sleep much last night, which is kind of unfortunate, but that's typically
That you
not the
beat. I
case.
didn't sleep at all last night.
You didn't sleep at all?
No, I didn't sleep at all. I'm still up from last night because we did mushrooms last night and Adderall and stuff, and so I'm just taking it all the way to the end of the day at this point. Might as well just skip the whole night,
I see. So you've been up all night.
Yeah, but I'm not running a sleep deficit right now because I'm at the beginning of a bottle of Adderall, so it doesn't matter. I'm fresher than if I had gotten full sleep because I'm added up. Okay, so do you have a hard time falling asleep?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, I recently. Okay, so typically no. Like typically, like I'm actually really strict and good with sleep. I think a large part of that has to do with like I said, I like to go to the gym a lot and stuff like that. So I feel like I've been like programmed that way. Like that's a big part of why I like have that sort of discipline. But if I took going to the gym out of the equation, I don't know how much that would apply. But I've been going to the gym like, for years, like my whole life almost. So like that, I feel like that's a big part of why like my sleep is like disciplined. Recently, it just hasn't, just because of like I've just been like anxious about like just like life stuff. But typically, I
Well,
would say like yeah, like
what does disciplined mean exactly? Does it mean go to bed at 10 p.m., wake up at 6 a.m.? Does it mean go to bed at midnight, wake up at 6 a.m.? What does it mean?
it means like 9:30, 10 o'clock. Um, wake up at like 6, 7. Yeah, like
Okay, cool.
that's typically it.
You don't, you're not, you have to be disciplined or else you'll stay up late.
Yeah, see that kind of ties into the gym thing. Like if I have, that's a big part of if I didn't have to be disciplined or if I didn't have like a reason to like, oh, I have to wake up early and like so I can go to the gym and I have to go to bed so I can recover from working out this and that, it would probably be different. But again, I've been going to the gym so long that it's like ingrained that way. But I think I kind of need something to have a reason to be. Yeah.
The gymnasium. So what is it that you do at the gymnasium?
The gymnasium. Weightlifting.
Weightlifting? Like upper
Yeah,
body
yeah.
stuff to make your muscles bigger?
Yeah, yeah. Upper, lower, everything.
Yeah, I never lifted any weights, but I had a job one time where I had to lift, like it was a custodial care job for like retarded people. I had to lift up non-ambulatory adults and put them on a table and take them down and put
Oh
them back
wow.
in the wheelchair and stuff. And during that job, my biceps got so much bigger than they had been before because it was all
Really?
bicep stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um. Okay, so let's change over to your eating habits now. Do you eat 3 square a day? Do you have to do you have to be disciplined about that, or else you won't eat enough, or you'll eat too much, or what's the deal with that?
Yeah, so when it comes to like so I guess like my typical way of eating and stuff like that is like I don't typically have breakfast. Um well, I guess I do in that I'll have like sorry, I keep going back to the gym thing, but I guess it's like a central part of a lot of things. I I guess like having like protein after the workout in the morning is like the breakfast order, but typically I don't really eat breakfast or whatever, and then I'll have like a meal, like probably one meal a day, honestly, like one meal later on in the day, and like maybe snacking in between. Like again, just like supplementing with
And
protein throughout the day.
is this just based on how hungry you are and when you get hungry, or is it some sort of planned diet?
um, I don't think it's based on like, yeah, I don't think it's based on if I'm like hungry or not. It's just like, again, I think it's just like like a,
Like you should eat at least once a day, so you do. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, yeah. I'm like, oh, I should get enough protein if I'm going to be, what's the point of working out? Like, I should get enough protein, and like eat. But it's not like I don't think I eat based off of like my hunger per se. Like, I don't know if that makes
You know
sense.
what I hear works really well for weightlifting is anabolic
Yeah,
steroids.
yeah. I've heard that.
Maybe you should
Yeah.
try adding a little bit of that to your diet. Just kidding.
I don't know about that. I think,
Okay, so let me
yeah, I
move
think
on now
the health
to.
stuff isn't even worth
I'm not actually advocating in favor of that.
it.
So
Okay.
let me ask you about. Okay, let me ask you some. Let me ask you some TE questions. Can you take the task of getting your car washed and break it down into exactly 5 steps?
Getting your car washed. 5 steps. Like if you took it somewhere as opposed to
Yeah,
doing it yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, see that sounds effortful to try and do that. I'll say that. Um
Okay, well, let me
my
demonstrate with this one, and we're going to try another one to confirm that we're doing what we think. Okay, let me bring my
okay.
wife here's what she for a full glass of, and then immediately forgot about. Guys, I'm giving you your juice because you forgot about it.
What
Oh,
kind of
you're in the
juice?
bathroom. I didn't know you were in the bathroom.
What
Oh,
kind of
you're in the
juice?
bathroom. I didn't know you were in the bathroom. I'm gonna put it here on the dining room table, okay? Rachel? Yeah, right here where trouble and the flowers are. All right, thank you. All right, sorry about that. So,
No, it's okay.
so an example for that TE question that I asked there is about the car wash is step one, get in your car. Step two, drive to the car wash. Step three, indicate what air freshener scent you want. Step four, have it drive through the car wash. Step five, let them dry it and pay. So now I'm gonna give you another task, and I want you to see if you can do that. Okay.
Okay.
Your new task is you need to get a child ready to go to the beach. I want you to give it to me in 5 steps.
Getting a child ready to go to the beach in 5 steps. I get okay. Step one, you tell the child we're going to the beach.
Okay.
Um, um, Getting a child ready to go to the beach. At step two, you get all the things they would need to go to the beach, and then
Okay.
take them. Then take them to the
That's
beach.
not part of
That-
getting ready to go to the beach. Okay. That's pretty clear cut. Yeah. And a normal answer to that would be something like pack their bathing suit, pack their sunscreen, pack them a lunch, uh, make sure they've got 2 pairs of shoes, 1 flip flop, 1 regular, and lastly, give them a kiss on the forehead.
Yeah, see, like I feel like what I said about just get all the things to take them to the beach, like it's like implicit in that. Like that seems like verbose and like I don't know. It just
But yeah,
doesn't.
there's absolutely no reason to break that into 5 steps. You're right.
Yeah,
It's absolutely an insane point in the sense, except that it has this one benefit of being a very like it's one of my strongest tests really for TE polar. And he gets tested positive for TE polar with authority.
with the
Yeah, I gave you two shots at it. Rachel couldn't do that shit either. So yeah, that's something that's unfamiliar to me in my life. And I agree. I don't like ordinated tasks either. I think it's dumb, ordinated stuff. I don't like shit. It's like goals, you know. But
Well, it seems
anyway,
like it seems excessive, right? Like if you have the idea of what you're doing, then it's you kind of see it already happening as opposed to like in steps like that. Just doesn't seem like natural to me.
right. Well, yeah, that'd be natural. Yeah. Okay. Well, now let me do a couple more tests here, and then I'll tell you what type you are, and we'll have a lot of time left because you're. What's that, Rachel? All right, cool. All right. So let me do some any test. Can you give me as many synonyms as you can think of for the word mischievous?
Mischievous, um, conniving, tricky, devilish, um, schemer.
Okay. Now I want to tell you the beginning part of a story, and I want you to tell me the end part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, there were 2 roosters and a dove sitting in the yard of the farm, Farmer Brown's farm. The 2 roosters and the dove. The dove was a lady. The 2 roosters said, "Hey there, good looking." And the dove says, "I'm not even the same species as you." And the other rooster, Rooster 1 was named 1, and Rooster 2 was named 2, conveniently. Um, 2 said to the dove, "Hey, you're being bigoted. That doesn't matter." Now you finish the story.
Mm.
That's a good story prompt. That's one of the better story prompts I've ever come up with. Really, I like that.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like that. Um, you're you're being bigoted. That doesn't matter. I guess the dove said, "Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry," and they just
They all fucked.
I don't sure, sure, yeah.
I'm going to demonstrate how I want the story to be ended, and then you try it with another try, okay? So it should be like this, like, and the dove said in reply to, "What? It doesn't matter. This is my body. Keep your laws off my body." And the rooster one said, "We're not even talking about passing any laws." And Dove said, "You don't understand. You don't have feelings like I do. I feel so much, and it's so important to me." And the rooster like, "Well, what's so important to you?" "Not to have sex with your roosters."
I like that you're
The rooster finally went away and said, "I guess he really doesn't want to have sex with her." And that's the end of the story.
oh, that's how you would end the story.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that what I want to hear from you is a little bit more detail, like extraneous detail, stuff that it doesn't add any relevant stuff to the story at all, right? Like, so there was this guy,
Yeah.
Bob, and he had with him a wallet, and in his wallet, he had the normal things you have in your wallet, a credit card, a library card, because people always have library cards, etc. Just adding a bunch of random details, not because they improve the
Yeah.
story or making it good, but just for the purpose of demonstrating that you can. Okay.
Yeah.
So your new story starter is Bob and Susie were two 30-year-old people who had just broken up with their ex-partners. Susie's ex-partner, he was a nasty drunk. And Bob's ex-partner, she was a slut. And she cheated on him. So they bump into each other in the supermarket. And it's one of those meet cute things like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry, did I knock this box out of your hand? Let me pick it up." And she's like, "Oh, it was my fault." And next thing happens, they're talking. Now you finish the story.
Sorry, they were talking after what? He found a box or something? I didn't hear that part.
So he bumped into him, and this box that she was having in her hands fell on the ground, and he leaned over and picked it up and gave it back to her and said, "I'm sorry." They both said, "I'm sorry," in unison. Oh, jinx. It's a meet cute.
They went on to ask each other about their previous lovers and what worked and what didn't work and why they're here. And I don't know. This is a very creative, I suppose.
Good, keep going. Hear a little
Uh,
bit more.
Why are you here? And they went on talking about all the shitty things that happened with the last people they were with and how they're need to find something better because their mom and all of her friends and their friends were telling them that the last person they were with wasn't good
All
for
right,
you
great.
in all these
Thank you.
ways. And
Okay, thank you. That's great. Thanks. So, we can, not that there was ever any doubt, but we can definitively eliminate any polar. You're not any polar. I'm going to ask some TI questions.
yeah.
If some buckets hold water and all things that hold water are wet, is it necessarily the case that some buckets are wet?
All right. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah. If some buckets hold water and all things that hold water are wet, is it necessarily the case that some buckets are wet?
Yeah.
Yep. If only Egyptians build pyramids and I build pyramids, am I necessarily an Egyptian?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me who my mother's husband is in relation to me?
Um, but that's your mother's husband. Your grandpa?
Yep. It's just about exactly the amount of time I'd expect that to take. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to give you an NI test that you're going to pass with no problem at all. I'm going to give you a sentence that's too long and has irrelevant
Yeah.
extraneous details in it, and I want you to
Yeah.
concise it down to its core message. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you really enjoy books and literature and reading, you should maybe consider a career in the exciting field of librarian reading. And become a librarian where you'll have the opportunity to work with books and magazines as well as periodicals, including autobiographies, biographies, fiction, nonfiction, the whole 9 yards. And you get to interface with people who want to read those books and talk to them about those books a little bit anyway, while you're stamping their card. If you like all that, you should become a librarian.
If you like books, literature, and the opportunity to introduce those to people, be a librarian.
But so well done. So well done.
Was that sarcasm or was
No, it was really well done. It's like you didn't just make it as concise as possible, which was, if you like books, be a librarian, because there was more relevant information in there, and you got the key
yeah.
piece of relevant information, and you excised everything irrelevant. You did it perfect. So that's as I expected, because I know what type you are for sure. And
Already.
oh yeah, Rachel, do you know what type he is for sure?
I think so.
Yeah, I know for sure what type.
Wait, Rachel just said yes.
She
does?
said, which
Yeah.
she said, yeah, okay. She said yes now. She said I think so, but now she said yes. And the thing is, I can ask you, I could, let me ask you all the questions I have for each function before I
Yeah.
tell you. I still have FI and FE to go. And I don't really have a lot of questions for SE, but I have some. So let's start with the SE question. What's your relationship with procrastination like? And when you procrastinate, what's your reasoning behind it, or thinking, or lack of thinking, or whatever?
So I procrastinate a lot in my life. When it comes to, one thing I'll say about that is I think I won't procrastinate on things that involve other people in a way, whether it's like, if I'm doing something for someone or it's for the sake of someone else or something like that, or, I don't want to get by someone else, the thing like at work or something, then I won't procrastinate on anything. But when it comes to my own individual things, yeah, I procrastinate on a lot of things. And I think, as you asked, like the reason for it and stuff, it's, I mean, I'm still trying to figure that out, but I think a lot of it is like, I don't know, maybe like fear of failure or not doing it perfectly enough or not, like, I don't know, things like that. But I know what it is that I need to do and like exactly how to do it. I know what it looks like to do it. I just don't do it. That's
Gotcha.
really it.
Um, when dealing with other people, do you understand their emotional state by putting yourself in their shoes or by reading their cues?
That's a good question. I think it's based. That's a good question. I never really thought about that. I think I want to say it's based on cues.
Um, you are a terrorist has got you by gunpoint, and they're saying you must drown either this puppy or this kitten. You choose. And which one do you drown?
I mean, obviously, what would happen? So is he gonna
He'd shoot
hurt
you.
me?
He'd shoot you. Yeah, he got a gun to your head, and he will shoot you if you don't
Ah,
drown either the puppy or the kitten.
see, like I gotta make it home to my family, you know. So I think, uh, obviously, I don't want any animal to die, but I would probably choose the puppies. I like kittens.
Okay, you like kittens. Okay.
Yeah,
You know what's the most FI polar answer? Is I choose puppies because they'd scratch less.
because they scratch less.
Yeah, because they scratch less. Somebody actually told me that she was an ESTP. That was the answer she gave. Was I choose a
Ah,
puppy because they scratch you less. It's like that's a very business-like way of answering that question, you know.
yeah, very matter of fact. Very, yeah.
Whereas you made sure to say, like, of course I wouldn't want any animal to die. That's why polar people don't do that kind of stuff. They just
Mm.
answer the question. Um, so okay, what else do I have to ask you? I mean, I have plenty of other questions for each of these things, but I don't feel any need to ask you more questions. I'm not going to teach you any time. Don't worry about it. I will tell you what type I know you are. I feel 100% certain. And that's not always the case, right? Sometimes I can't quite figure it out. I got it between two types usually, and I can't say which one it is for sure. With you, it's as for sure as I can be, really.
So
You're
before you
you're
say
an
that,
INFJ.
I knew as soon as he started talking.
Yeah, I knew right away too. I knew right away, and everything confirmed it all down the line for the entire typing session. Every single answer is consistent with what I expected for INFJ. You're a textbook INFJ.
but you, I feel like you felt came to that conclusion like 10 minutes in or something. Like
No,
what
I
is
didn't
it?
come to the conclusion at all until I had determined it decisively. I still asked other questions after that to confirm it, but I determined it decisively once I determined you were um, an NI Dom, which is pretty, you know, it's pretty obvious in the way that you relate to SI, not in the way that you necessarily relate to NI, but your your bad memory about particulars, and you're defaulting to like telling me what you usually do when I ask you what you actually did in this specific circumstance, the textbook NFJ
Uh,
move, both I or E. Um, but you're not. But the thing that made me absolutely certain that you were an INFJ ultimately was when I got the very clear TI polar result. That made you either an ISFJ or an INFJ and nothing else. And you definitely are not an SI Dom. Yeah, T. Did I say what did I say?
TI.
Oh my bad. TE polar. When I got the TE polar result, I knew for sure, because the only other possibility would be that you were an SI Dom, and you're definitely not an SI Dom.
mm.
You have none of the SI Dom. You have nothing about an SI Dom.
Like the only other check I think you can make an ISFJ, we have to see a little bit more.
Once we get such a clear-cut TE polar test, especially with the confirmation of you passing all the other polar tests, so that you're not in any of those polars, right? That I don't have a good polar test for SE, FI, or FE. I don't have good polar tests for those. I just have kind of correlative tests. But the thing is, like I said, the TE polar test is one of my strongest. Like you can take that to the bank and cash it. That is for sure. If you're TE polar, you're definitely TE polar. You can't do that ordination thing, and literally every other slot can.
Mm.
So it's one of my best tests.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I spent a lot of time asking SI questions, which gave me plenty of confirmation that you are no SI Dom, that you were either 8th or maybe 7th SI, but definitely not a dominant. So if you're a TE polar for sure, and you're definitely not an SI Dom, that automatically right then makes you definitely an INFJ. But like I said, every other question I asked you and got an answer for was also consistent with INFJ. Not a single thing I heard from you was inconsistent with INFJ. Not one single thing.
Yeah.
Which is, it's not always this easy to type somebody, right?
Oh, well, that's the thing. Like, I haven't. So I think one thing you usually, I guess, one thing you, I guess, always ask in the beginning of everything is, how many have you seen before? This and that, right? And yeah, I think I've seen like maybe two like sessions in their entirety, and like 10, 20, 30 other ones of like just bits and pieces because I didn't want to like ruin it for myself. But yeah, I
So
in
you'd be
free
shocked at the percentage of INFJs who begin by saying the exact shit you said. Listen, I know
what
about this, and I'm afraid I'm going to game this. I'm going to be too intuitive for you, Eric. And can you please stop me from being too intuitive for you?
is that
But
really?
even
Is
if
that
you're
really?
too intuitive for me, that's fine. It's totally fine. Like INFJs are, as far as I can tell, really the only type that does that. And most of them do it before the typing session. It's crazy.
Really?
Yeah, but I would say most of them. I've heard it a lot of times. I would say less than most of them, but a good chunk of them.
Yeah.
They start by if they're a good chunk of the ones who have knowledge do the thing that when I ask them about how much they're familiar with it, they do the thing that you did. If they are very familiar with it, they do exactly the thing you did. I would say
Mm.
probably most of that population of very familiar people do that. But the population of INFJs in general, not all of them are very familiar. So
Mm.
anyway, we've got 30 minutes left. So I wanted to let you direct me as to how you want this time to go. What do you want me to clarify for you or talk about, or you have questions, or however you want to spend the time?
Mm. Yeah, I didn't anticipating it being as, I guess, as short, like as far as you
I think
realizing
I
as
extended it as much as I could too, because like at a certain point, I just from my perspective, it was just overkill. Like everything was hitting INFJ so square in the middle of the target that it was obvious. I also being married to one helps.
yeah, yeah.
Rachel's an INFJ, so I know the type very well. And my best friend for a long time was also an INFJ. I know the type very well.
Yeah. And so you think, just based off of this time right now, you think, I guess if I heard correctly, like the two strongest points were um like the TE polar and then SI being, you know, as low as it was or whatever. You think though, like those two alone are indicative of that, you think?
I mean, those two alone prove that you're an INFJ, but that's not the only proofs I have, because your TI test,
Mhm.
you tested squarely third slot. You got them right, but it took you a long time. And INFP, will get those in a second. Just bam, bam,
Ah.
bam. Um,
Mm.
and but you're not bad at it. Like you're not polar or anything. You're proud, and the results were indicating you're almost certainly not unconscious TI also, because you engage with the questions as intended without any stumbling like you had with the TE thing where you said, well, this just seems like a bad thing to be doing. Why would one do this? Well, why would one
Yeah,
answer questions like some penguins eat meow, right? So
yeah,
TI
yeah.
is just as critiquable in the same way, but you didn't critique TI that way. You took to it like somebody who's a third slot user of it who finds scorecard points in having good TI and being correct and in being fair and in being just. Rachel very much into justice, put it this way, injustice bothers her a lot.
Hmm.
So, so I lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
Okay, so what else do you have any, ask me whatever.
I see. I didn't anticipate having this much time to just kind of
Okay,
open
well, let
it
me
up.
give you some options, okay? I can explain to
Yeah.
you in more full detail how all of your respective answers that I haven't talked about yet link to INFJ. Or I could explain to you, like, questions like, if I'm an INFJ, this, or do you have any thoughts yourself about what made you not so sure you were an INFJ? So that I can address specific points where you think that there's some contraindication of it. What type did you think you were coming in?
I spent like I've spent so much time and research, like so much doubt and so many questions. Like that's why I want to like talk to you, whatever. Like I think I heard you say this one time, like having like that type like kind of needs an external thing to be like, yes, you're this,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
because it drives me crazy. I'm like, because I was always like, I guess one question I can ask you right now is, what I was, it would either be it was either I was always confused if it was whether an INFJ or an INFP. But again, like the more research I did, this and that, I'm like, I don't think I'm an INFP, but I don't want to be wrong about myself.
You're
Like,
definitely not an INFJ. INFPs are very, very different from INFJs. INFPs have a lot of extroverted intuition like me. Like Acacia is always killing with the extroverted intuition in the chat. She's an INFP. INFJs have the opposite superpower. They have that concision making superpower that you demonstrated. Like after I said all that stuff, if I had asked you to recall the non-cogent details, you probably wouldn't have been able to recall them. That's
yeah,
how good your NI is, right? But in order to be that good, you have to make accordingly sacrifices in the SI department, which is why you don't have a good memory.
yeah. Also, I think I heard Rachel say earlier, like, oh, as soon as he started talking, I knew or whatever. I just wonder what she like means by that, even if it's like an affect thing. Sorry.
Yeah, that's sort of an affect thing. But it was like he sounds INFP. I don't know.
You mean INFJ?
Like I thought he spoke like soft like an INFP. So I was like,
I thought you said you knew right away when you started talking.
yeah, I mean I
But you had a little bit of doubt or something?
yeah.
Well, he wants to know why you knew right away or how you knew right away. The answer is probably Rachel's not sure how she knew right away because introverted intuition is like that. You
Yeah.
know, but you're not necessarily able to explain why or how you know.
Yeah.
Affect definitely in a way. In a way.
It's just it's introverted intuition. It's taking cues, holistic cues about you, probably
Yeah.
several different cues that line up, and he kind of just intuits the rest of the picture and says, I don't know exactly how I know this, but this guy's an INFJ. Fortunately, I don't even ask her usually at all what she thinks before I type people. So it's not like there's any rush to judgment. I'm very deliberative. I would not tell you you're 100% a given type unless I feel like I had done ample
Yeah.
proving it. Like, it's definitely for sure.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you also thought you were an INFJ coming in. And
You did.
yeah, he did.
I thought that you might have thought you were an INFJ coming in too.
Really? Really?
I did too. I also thought that. I also thought that you knew you were an INFJ. So we were all right. You were right. I was right. Rachel was right. We were all right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Scary.
that's it's very interesting to learn that. Because I don't know, I guess like, can I ask you about in relation to SE, like what that's fourth slot for me? Like what can you explain that a little bit? As far as like doing things in like life and stuff like that, because I don't do much. And I wish I did.
Well, you do. I bet you do more than Rachel. Rachel, I don't do anything at all. Okay, and that actually is critique. It's a good joke. So the thing is, you've got 4th slot SE, you've got 8th slot SI. The sensory stuff is an area where you're not going to feel like you want to spend time except on your whim. So you're not gonna like it when anybody messes with, especially your SI. When anybody tries to tell you when to eat, when to go to bed, stuff like that, then you're
Yeah.
really not gonna like that. On the other
Yeah.
hand, if somebody's willing to help you with your SE, you're happy to take the help because you've actually got good SE and good FE in some sense compared to like me. Uh, and so you use FE as a way of getting things accomplished without having to do them all yourself.
Mm.
But there's only certain kinds of things you can manage that way. And so what ends up being a more FE-NI safe thing to do is to kind of retreat from the world a little bit. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Definitely.
INFJs are very conflicted types about things like going out. You definitely want to be invited, but you probably don't want to go. And you might resent it later when you do go.
Yeah, it's very true.
But you'd be very offended if you weren't invited. So
Yeah. Yeah, I never thought of.
yeah, Rachel's like that too. Sometimes she says things like she said before. Can I come outside with you? Of course you can come outside with me. You know,
Yeah.
it's she feels this little indignation as though I'm leaving her out of something. But of course,
Mhm.
if she doesn't want to do that thing, then she'll just be on her phone and she'll have no such response
Then
at all.
she won't. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
when you get to a certain
yeah,
level of intuitiveness, right, it inherently means ineffectiveness.
ineffectiveness. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because NITE can be very effective, INTJ, ENTJ, right? But
Yeah.
those are the only two intuitive types that are generally very effective. And it's because their TE links more powerfully with effectiveness than NI counterlinks with effectiveness, right? NE is
Yeah.
much less effective than NI. So you've got your two least effective types, INTPs and INFPs with NE tool. And
Mm.
ENFPs and ENFPs are a little more effective because we don't have SE polar. But you're more effective when you do take action and you understand how to take action. Even if you like you said, you procrastinate when you can because you're the only cop, right?
Yeah.
But you don't when you can't because the weakness of your doing is outweighed by the importance of the NIFB. If somebody else is counting on you for something, you can't. I mean, you're FE tool. Just like I couldn't stand around and be illogical for all day, like just being wrong about things and be okay with living like that. It would just be impossible, right? Same thing with you and your FE. So accordingly, if it's going to
Uh-huh.
impact people's perceptions of you and or if it's going to make them give you cues that they're upset with you, then you're not going to do that thing, whatever that thing is that make that happen. You're not going to do that.
So does that explain like so are you saying you don't someone of that type like you're not going to do things because like what is it you're hindered by other people's emotions or like what is the relationship between doing things like for yourself and wanting to do things and like take action and stuff and like being impeded by something like what is that like other people's emotions is that what's going on like is it that
No, it's your tool function. The thing is this, you are an NI-DOM, which means you're a receiving type. Your default setting is to receive. There's three ways you can deal with information, right? You can put it, you can get it, or you can receive it. So as a receiver, you want to just sort of stand there and wait for things to fall down, like to catch. So you what is actually doing stuff mean for you? Your form of doing stuff is consuming media a lot, things that
Yeah.
have, meanings, especially things like
Yes.
it's very normal for INFJs to be very interested in typology because it gives them an objective external thing, if it's my kind of typology anyway, to understand themselves by, instead of requiring them to use their own experience, which is their most unconscious function, which is FI, to explain themselves to themselves. Rachel's
Ah.
constantly looking for external places to tell her who she is.
Yes. Yes.
So it's like, as with all types and cognitive function stuff, you know, being the master of what you're the master of means you're shitty at meow, meow, and meow. Those
And
things
so,
mean the same.
so what would I be like? What shitty at per se? Doing?
Both S's and TE. Okay.
Ah.
Those ones you're going to be shitty at. FI, you're going to countervalue, which means basically, the fact that meow is precious to you is not a good enough justification for you to demand we all go meow.
Ah. Yeah.
So you countervalue it, but you understand it a lot better than, say, me, who has a polar. Just like I get TE, no problem. You have a polar.
Yeah.
So, and then your fifth slot is an absolute value. Basically, you're the receiving expert at extroverted intuition. When you're processing information, you're picking out the good bits of new, actually informative information, things that have pop, that do intellectual work, right? And are
Yeah.
correct. You're using your TI some to make things, to see if things are correct, but mostly you're relying on your NI, which is very reliable, to see if things are correct. You probably will have trouble explaining why you know it's correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's fifth slot extroverted intuition is what I started talking about. But
Yeah.
I segued into something else. Anyway, the point of fifth slot extroverted intuition is that the reason you're consuming that media is because that's your natural thing to do, is to receive stuff on the communicative meaning level. And the world tells us that we're not doing anything. Fuck you,
Hmm.
you're not doing anything. Why are you out and about in the city rather than on the internet reading things and watching videos? What's wrong with you? You're not doing anything. We can say the same thing to them.
Yeah.
Those oppressive fucks.
See, like I always, yeah. So, uh, I guess one little question I have is just curiosity. Like, why do, if I'm not mistaken, like, why do people want to be this type? Is that a correct thing to say? Like, why is it
Oh yeah,
portrayed as
no,
this,
it's
like,
correct. It's for sure. There are certain specific types that want to be INFJ. And the reason they want to be INFJ is because the type descriptions of INFJ are, they're first of all, they're generally they have a lot of wrong stuff in them, but they're also very flattering. So the types that people want to be are ENTP, INFJ, INTJ, and maybe INTP. Um, and the people who are most likely to think they're these types are ESFPs.
Mhm.
ESFP, I had an ESP recently tell me he was an INFJ. I said, no. He's like, no, I've been doing a lot of internal thinking and soul searching and feelings and stuff. And I figured out now that I'm an INFJ. This is after I typed the guy, all right? So
Yeah.
I said, no, you're not an INFJ. You're definitely an ESFP. You're nothing at all like an INFJ. But ESFPs, why do they do that? Because they've got fourth slot in I, so their intuition is bad, like your extroverted sensing is bad, and most importantly, they've got TI polar. So they literally, by default, parse everything subjectively.
Yeah.
When he really got in touch with his
Yeah.
feelings, he got in touch with which type did he want to be. And he thought that meant this is the type that I am.
That you are. Yeah.
So ISFJs kind of have the opposite problem. You guys can't process any subjective information because your SI is where it keeps track of your own experience. You
Yeah.
can process some information about your own feelings, but it's annoying to you because if you're having to feel things, then somebody's being difficult.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
Go ahead.
sorry. I guess okay, so one thing I'd really want to know is if you had to tell someone like me or whatever, like this is like how how what would you tell me to like based off of all this to like develop into like the best version of yourself or whatever? Like this is what you're kind of this is what you kind of, this is your
I would tell
strength and
you
like this
there's
is what you
nothing
suck
wrong
at
with
and
you. I would tell you there's nothing wrong with you.
see, wow, that was amazing right there. Because I struggle a lot in the world. And this is like a big part of why I'm even doing this and stuff is like I would always wonder, it's like something must be wrong with me. So the fact that you just said that is crazy.
I used to think, but there's something wrong. I didn't know what was wrong with me too. I remember when I first encountered typology and read a type description at each page,
Yeah.
I cried because it's like, that's what's wrong with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Also, impossibly flattering. Like the type descriptions need to spend a lot of time, I think, talking about the weaknesses that are implied by the strengths and a lot less time talking about the strengths. Because you can kind of understand what you do well in life by understanding what you don't do well.
So what would be like if you told like what theoretically what's your like what would be like my like strength or whatever? Because I struggle, like I said, like I struggle with like there's so much stuff I like want to do and like I have all these ideas and that and I can't do anything about it and I see it but I can't do it. So you feel like you can't do anything. Like you don't do anything and I struggle with
Well,
that.
I mean, that is probably a problem linked to FI6. When you don't have to, you don't access your own feelings at all. And so the question of wanting to do something, to do a project, is it's probably a question of you don't know, you don't have clarity about exactly what you want to do to the exclusion of other things.
Mm.
And because FI is knowing what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have this problem in spades, right? It's like I don't know what I want. So once I have a million projects that in theory I'd like to work on. I used to work on stuff in the most horrible way possible, which is my only way of working, which is what you call brute force. Like an NI dom like you, if you're making some art thing, before you make it, you have your vision of it. Or at least the vision of it comes in very quick as you're making it.
Yes.
But for me, I have to do all the things the wrong way first. And then by process of elimination, get to the right choice.
Mm.
Basically, I have to try random shit until my very unconscious but effective NI says that's good.
Mm.
The problem is that's a very horrible way to work because
Yeah.
but basically I have to kind of keep my extroverted intuition and so busy. Then I'll have NI come out. So like if I'm freestyling a song, I'm singing the song and playing guitar, making up the chords at the same time, right? I'm making up the vocals and chords. So it's a lot to keep me occupied. So I think that kind of lets my NI come out and because I can't overthink things.
Mm.
But I'm an NI user in the sense of a NE dom, right? Just like you have a relationship with NE that's dictated by your NI domness, my relationship with NE is one of an action type dealing with a receiving function. So I try to treat NI like an action function. It helps me make something good rather than bad. And you try to treat NE like a receiving function. You'll peruse this media and find the one guy on YouTube worth getting typed by.
Yeah. So how would you suggest one would go about, like you said, like having this this preconceived vision or whatever? Like, how would you go about telling someone like me to like actually do the thing to like have that vision, like be
I
real?
don't know. I don't
'Cause I
know how
struggle.
that sounds work in that regard. I have my shitty work way. I don't
Yeah.
like. I wish I had your way of working, but I don't know how INFJs do what they do. That's what makes them so delightful to me. It's like Rachel. It does things that I'm always like I don't know how that came about. And with my own songs, even there are a few of my songs where I go, I don't know how I wrote that song. That I can't think of the creative process by which I made the song at all. It seems
Yeah.
so pure and true. Those are the ones
Yeah.
that have a lot of NI pop. The ones that don't have as much NI pop, I can conceive of them of the work process. I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
understand how I made it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how NI DOMs do what they do.
Yeah.
Man, I don't think INFJs know how they do what they do. I don't think if you
Yeah.
ask, I don't think if I asked Rachel, how do you use NI?
I can only think of one thing that other like people have said about INFJs that I resonate with, like pattern recognition.
Okay. Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing is when we're asking how, then we're really saying, well, how do you recognize patterns? And the answer to that is there's no answer to that, right? You just,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a form of knowing. It's like, how do you remember something? That's also a form of knowing. It's instantaneous. There's no
Yeah.
process to it. There's a
Yeah.
process to TI and to FI. There's a process to extroverted intuition and to extroverted sensing. But there's not a process for knowing functions
Yeah.
because they're instantaneous.
So sorry, I guess I'll leave you. Is that what you would
No,
say?
no,
Like,
keep going. I'm not getting hurt.
thanks,
I'm
Eric.
taking another 15 minutes or whatever is fun.
Thanks,
I'm
Eric.
enjoying this conversation. I love typing INFJs. They're fun to talk to.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah,
I
I
hate
think.
typing ISFPs. Oh my god, because I finished them in like 25 minutes too, but I can't. I have to just try to drag it on forever because they have the conversation skills of a rock.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you just say like, "So, how was your day today?" Good. I see.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
made it good? It was fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
Giving
I've
nothing.
noticed. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I think we're doing a great job of getting through some questions. If I'm not phrases questions, what else you got on your mind here?
Sorry, what was the last part? Having a phrase in my mind?
So what else you got on? What else do you have in your mind about things that might be questions about INFJs or something like that?
Yeah, because that is what I'm thinking about. Like, it's questions around that. But I guess another thing is like, so like, what would you say? Like, oh, like this is, this is your thing. This is your strength. This is what you are good at. Like, use this. So that, I guess that's introvert intuition, right? But like, what would you say about that?
You're really good at communicating with people. You're the
Ah,
best. You're really the best at communicating with people of all the types because you never overload them with information. Everything you say has this clarity and pop. Like I remember when my dad died, I asked Rachel, I said, what makes a suicide so much worse than a regular death? And she said,
yeah.
because it's about unhappiness. And I was like, wow,
Mm,
that's great.
mm,
I got really mad at my psychiatrist, and he informed me in the typing session at some point after we chatted for a while, because I had to hold him accountable. That's why I was upset at him. He finally said to me, "Okay, I get it. You're disappointed in me." That's a great example of good NI. And I, at the time, because I'm bipolar, I said, at that point we were winding down, but afterwards I thought, like, well, how is that relevant to anything? Who cares what my emotion is? Actually,
Uh-huh.
it's the only thing that's relevant, because
Yeah.
if it hadn't been an emotion behind it, I would have just tried to I would just have been satisfied with getting the thing I wanted to get, and not worried about holding him accountable, you know?
Right. Right. So
So that was excellent NI on his part. He's an INFP, so the INFPs they countervalue NI, but it's demonstrative. So like in his work, he demonstrates it as need be.
yeah. So how do you struggle with how you're feeling particularly? Like you don't know how you're feeling, you don't care about it? Like how is because I think my brother might be an ENTP, I don't know, but
No, it's not that I don't care about it. It's like, well, I not that long ago, I guess it was pretty long ago, September, I got a prescription for Wellbutrin for depression. I guess that's what it's for. But I didn't tell the psychiatrist that I was depressed at all. I just informed him that I had this pseudo Tourette's habit of saying I hate myself and I wish I were dead all day long to
Mhm.
myself. And it was Rachel was in the room saying it out loud to myself. And
Yeah.
I didn't identify that had an emotion issue. I identified that I had a behavior problem with word speaking.
Mm.
And I realize now that I was depressed. And I had the time from the other thing. Like, here's another example of bipolar. I genuinely believed that my dad's suicide was not traumatizing to me, and was not going to be trauma. It would never reveal itself as trauma or something. I just thought,
Wow.
well, why would it? Because I mean, he made the right decision based on all the stuff on my mind. He wanted to have his self-determination, etc. So why would it be traumatizing? Well, of course. And then I spent the next couple of years here, changing my whole life, but also coming to terms with all this shit that happened. And I just now, recently, last week or two, feel like I'm totally on the other side of it. Like now I'm not saying those things to myself at all anymore. So it was just a matter of processing, I guess. But that kind of that happens sort of incidentally. There's no feeling on my part that I'm getting any work done.
Mhm. Yeah.
On the other hand, when I like watch cartoons or something, or watch a lot of anime,
Yeah.
and there's they make me cry, they make me laugh. I love those emotions. I feel them great, and because they're not really my emotions, right? They're borrowed
Ah.
from the cartoon or something. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
FD more in some regard.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not very good at explaining that bipolar because I'm not bipolar.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I
You
think
want me
it's
to tell you how
interesting
to
you
get
said, "Oh,
things
like,
done.
you're a good." Yeah. Please.
I don't have an answer for you. If I had an answer for you, I'd get things done.
Yeah. 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 Uh, I think it's
Here's
interesting
the
you
answer. Here's what like an ESTP would say the answer is: do them.
just do it. Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't understand how difficult things are.
Yeah, trust me, I tried rationalizing it that way and just tell them, "Oh, you just have to do it." That never works, just do it.
Yeah,
Like,
you're always going to look for, well, who's going to get me in trouble if I don't? Rachel and I both continue to think that the other one is going to get us in trouble. Like
yeah.
Rachel will come out of the bedroom having slept. Like she wakes up, she comes in, and she's like, "I'm sorry I slept so long." Like,
Right, right.
why are you
Yeah,
sorry for that?
yeah.
And then also, I'll be the same way though. It's like I feel like somehow I'm getting away with something. And I had really naggy second wife. So when I'm playing poker all day, I think, oh God, I'm gonna get in trouble. Rachel's gonna get me in trouble. It's weird that I still think this even conceivably because Rachel and I do not get each other in trouble. That's why we're so compatible, right? Because like
Yeah.
you never bust your chops about not getting shit done because I feel you, dog. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you wouldn't bust my chops about getting shit done because you feel me, dog, right?
It's like, I get it. Yeah. That's
So
fun.
that's what makes. If you can find an ENTP chick, good luck with that. But if you can find one, they're the perfect mate for you. Assuming you're
Hmm.
heterosexual, I don't mean to make any assumptions about that stuff.
I am. Thank you. Yeah. How would,
Okay.
speaking of compatibility, what would you say about an INFJ, ENFJ? Because I'm thinking of some.
Rachel's been in that relationship,
Um,
really, right?
yes.
It was her best relationship.
Yes. Yeah, it was my best relationship.
Prior to me.
Yeah, of course.
Besides, yeah,
it's no longer her best
it's
friend.
no longer, yeah. We were long distance, so living together was a little different, but conversation was really easy. I think it could be nice.
Is it like a workable thing though, or is it like doomed? Is it like,
No, I don't
like,
think it's doomed. No, I don't think it's
uh,
doomed. Yeah,
yeah.
I think there were
Here's where the conflict comes in, though. You have different absolute values. Your absolute value is NI, your instrumental value is FE. Their
Uh-huh.
absolute value is FE, their instrumental value is NI. So what
Yeah.
you want to do for its own purposes, they only want to do for a specific reason. And what you want to just do for specific reasons, or when necessary, they want to do as an absolute value. So it's
Mm.
like, from your perspective, the ENFJ will be prioritizing interfacing as the end too much and not
Mm.
knowing with intuition as the end. It's for them, knowing with intuition is the means to an end.
Mm.
So that's where the conflict comes up. I experienced a conflict like this with this lady named Kimball, who was an IHP, debate coach that I had hired. And
Yeah.
she and I ultimately never got together because of that, because I kept extrovertly intuiting when she wanted to be logical. And then she kept being logical when I wanted to extrovertly intuit it.
Mm.
I kept saying, well, I think before we do that, we should do this and that. And I was saying she was a little bit more, she had better TE than me.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see how that would be cause for conflict.
So I don't know how you're going to find an EHP chick.
I think my
I
brother's
think there's
one.
like 5 of them in the entire world.
Is that so?
Aga, there's an EHP chick. She's an EHP. We do have an EHP chick. She's hot too. I think you find people would generally say that. So she's a blonde Polish lady. Um, she's really cool. So I like her. She's nice. But
I like
in
that.
other words, she's not toxic. There's another EHP lady I know, but she's totally toxic.
Mm.
Anyway, maybe go and watch her sometime. You'll see her there. You can schmooze her.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah.
Here's how you do it. You just go, sup, hey girl.
Yeah, you nailed it. How'd you know? Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you like 1 or 2 more questions before you go? Um, so is it safe to say like there's sometimes I have this idea of like an INFJ almost being like useless in a way Like, is that an idea that's like not crazy to think of, just like in the world, or like so out of place that it's like you think that, it's just
I'm
you
gonna,
or something like that?
I'm gonna tell, give it to you straight. You're the third most useless type.
The third most useless.
Yes. The most useless type is INTP. The
Ah,
second most useless type is INFP. And the third most useless type is INFJ.
yeah. So that's not a good standing in terms of what
But here's the
trying to
good
do.
news. Because you're TE polar, you definitely do not believe that anybody's worth comes from their utility. You might believe
Yeah,
it about yourself a little bit. It sounds like maybe you do believe that about yourself, but you would never find yourself critiquing somebody else for their lack of utility and saying that you could
yeah,
determine anything about them because of that lack of utility.
right. Yeah.
So, um, here's the other thing about INFJs. They're incredibly effective, but the things that they're effective about, people don't give them enough credit for. Like,
Hmm.
for example, when we were living in Arcadia and my mom was living at the house and she was still in her old wheelchair. One day Rachel and I went to a yard sale and she saw this nice new wheelchair for me amount of dollars. And
Yeah.
she did the obvious thing, which was notice it and think maybe we should get that. Right. Um,
Yeah.
whereas what I did was not notice it at all. And then when she said, "Hey, we should get that," I'm like, "Really? Didn't she already have a wheelchair?" And this wheelchair was so much better, and her old wheelchair was so much shittier. But
Yeah.
then when we got home, I said, "Well, let's talk to my dad about it." I guess when we got home, I had forgotten about it all entirely. She went and told my dad, and he was super stoked about that. That was like one thing that Rachel did that he was like, "Okay, she's useful." But the thing is, the actual utility of that, right, was my mom got to be in a good wheelchair for the rest of her life from that point forward, which is an
Mm.
extreme amount of payoff for a little thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's also, you're not going to get credit for all the payoff because people don't understand how important and valuable NI is because it sounds so simple. It sounds like
Hmm.
it's just the obvious truth.
Yeah. 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 It's kind of like camouflaged in a way, right? Of like it looks so simple and like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, what you'd be really good at would be, you know, obviously some kind of media slash like presentation checker and director. Like if any kind of communications kind of work, communications director. If somebody has to release a press release, they should always get an INFJ to write it, unless it's a legal press release, in which case they should get an ENFP.
So, so you always highlight this idea of like communicating, like as like just being a good communicator.
I mean, you're not just a good communicator. You're much more likely than the average person to be correct about music, about movies, about all kinds of art. And
Yeah.
most people are horribly wrong about those things.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I would point out that J.K. Rowling's an INFJ, and she wrote all those Harry Potter books. My doctor is an INFP, and he became a psychiatrist. So maybe we're just lazy.
Yeah. 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 No, I appreciate you understanding, like, I guess where I'm coming from in terms of like asking about, doing things and like how to do things and stuff. Like, I feel like you actually understand that.
The thing is, Rachel is my princess, so whatever she doesn't want to do, she does not touch at all.
Yeah.
It's like, and my love language is actually acts of service. I don't have
Mm,
problems doing things for Rachel. I have problems doing my own things.
yeah. Yeah.
I constantly am cooking for us and stuff. She never cooks and stuff like that. So, and if she doesn't feel like doing something, she stresses that she might be getting in trouble, like for not doing the laundry in a couple of weeks or something. I have not noticed it at all. That at no point do I ever even think like, why isn't there any laundry? I just go, oh, I guess I gotta find some pants. There's some pants. They're dirty, but I've been wearing these pants for a week. That's fine. What's another day?
Yeah, yeah,
It never occurs to me to think Rachel's not doing her job. That's why you need to be
yeah,
the MVP, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because if you get a healthy one anyway, we don't value the same things you don't value.
yeah. Which is why it's easy to like, yeah, there's like this weird level of like like I feel like you understand like where I'm coming from and what I'm saying and stuff like that. Again, I think my brother is one as well, but there's like this rapport in a way that's like similar wavelengths, I think.
And the other great thing about the relationship is the way that the TIFE are opposite values, because your tool function, your main instrumental value, you're excellent at it. But if you're my relationship partner, you're not going to get mad at me when my FE is not great, because it's not an absolute value for you. It's just an instrumental value. And as concurrently, your TI is not always going to be perfect, but it doesn't bother me at all. I just correct it or not if you want. It doesn't matter, because I don't actually care about TI correctness. It's just necessary for me to have any it's necessary in certain areas in life, right? So it's necessary when I'm out in the world doing stuff. It's not necessary at home. I don't care. I don't care if Rachel's incorrect about something. I was like, I don't believe in astrology at all. She likes astrology, but I never talk shit about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you like astrology?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I would talk to my brother about this, who again, I think is an ETV, but I kind of, we were talking about like, typology, this and that. And I would tell him, one thing I would say to him was like, it's not like it's easier to wrap your head around and believe or whatever in terms of like cognitive functions. And I would tell him, like, it's not like it's astrology where it's just like the stars and like, blah, blah, like, but I mean, yeah, so I guess that's how I feel about it is like, it's very vague and woo woo, but this feels more like grounded and like real, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's because it is. It's like
Yeah.
cognitive functions explained correctly. They are the meta frame, which is to say, everything else in the universe can be informed by cognitive functions, because everything in the universe that we engage with at all, in any way at all, is predicated on human observation first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like the problem a lot of times is with people having the arguments and shit, like Kant making his critique of pure reason, which was obviously a very landmark book in philosophy, but all he was really doing was projecting an INTP's frame of reference as
Yeah.
the only way to determine what is moral, I guess. And the thing is, he's not wrong. Okay, he's not wrong, but that was a bad example. The point is, everybody's just projecting this shit, right? Like, so why do we have all these people on
Yeah.
autism spectrum? It's because people who are FE DOMs, especially without NI, I think, they're going to say anybody who's got social problems is autistic rather than the FE polar, maybe, right? Because they don't understand. There's no general understanding of these terms and what they mean and all that kind of stuff, right? So because people don't have the words for it, like if you imagine you didn't have the words north, south, east, and west, then what you do every time you give directions, you say like, go to that house, face the house, then turn left, and it would never occur to you to give directions any other way, because you wouldn't have those words. We are able to be aware of and parse our own attentional habits if we're unaware that we are defined by how we pay attention.
Yeah. Right. No, that's a really good way to put it, actually. Yeah, it's not like yeah, not having the words similar to not having like the cognitive capacity for a certain, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, are you ready to wrap this up?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for everything. I really appreciate like your time and all the help and all the questions.
No, no problem. Would you like me to share this with you privately, or are you comfortable with me publishing?
You can publish.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. So
Yeah,
that'll
of
go
course.
up. That'll go up right now. I'm not sure when it's gonna. It'll be a premiere, so I'm not sure exactly when it's gonna publish. Maybe tomorrow morning, maybe tonight. I'm not sure. But
Okay.
yeah, I'll get to upload it as soon as it finishes processing from the Google Meet.
Yeah, okay.
All right,
All
cool.
right.
So thanks a lot, and
Thanks, Jake.
talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Nice meeting you. Bye.